Hello, this is Yago Soto, Sales Director of Quobis. I'm one of the founders of the company. Thanks for being here for this webinar about sovereignty and open source in telecom, one of the main topics of the moment. So this webinar has been thought to last for 30 minutes, more or less. At the end of the webinar, I will try to book some time to answer some of the questions that you may have. As we are using this tool, you can probably find the options to submit some questions. I will try to check these questions in real time. For those that are not possible, I will book some minutes at the end of the webinar. As usually, this webinar will be recorded, and all the recordings will be available for you probably tomorrow. So you will receive an email with all this information. So do not hesitate to interact with me during this webinar and to send all the questions that you may have. Okay. So moving to the next slide. Well, just to make a short overview about Quobis as a short introduction, okay, but because probably some of you are not familiar with us, just to let you know, Quobis is a tech company from Spain. We are celebrating 20 years this month, at the end of this month. Our focus is completely on voice and real-time communications, playing different roles during all this time. So from a pure system integrator to now to a vendor manufacturer with our own solutions, okay, that we maintain with third-party solutions and others. Okay. In terms of the business verticals that we are addressing, our focus is telecom market. So typically we are working with tier one telcos and service providers in Western Europe, Middle East, and South America. As I mentioned before, we keep different business lines from integrators, developers, and also we are using third-party solutions, commercial solutions, and open source. And we will use all this background in order to provide our feedback or insights about what's going on in terms of regulation and the new reality of Europe promoting solutions of our own region. Okay, so today we are going to talk about our technical capacities. We are going to talk about regulation, a lot of regulation here, and we are going to talk about also about business trends. Okay, trying to focus on telecom market, especially at the end of this webinar, and take a look to the reality of open source in this new framework. Okay. So, well, what's going on? We are going to talk about our own geopolitical context. As you probably know, we were relying in solutions from America or Asia for a long time here in Europe, and now we have a new reality that's probably going to change anything here. Okay. One of the points that we have detected is down there are something like UA Inc. That is a type of framework or yeah, just to create your own startup with regional uh, regulation, not dependent on your country. Okay, so they are trying to unify or just create a legal framework to harmonize all the startups and companies created in the European Union. It's in a similar way to Delaware in the case of the United States. So this is something that is completely changing the situation point that we have for the moment. Okay. Um, this involves a new framework for managing the intellectual property, how to manage the insolvency proceedings, how to manage stocks, options, and from a European perspective. Okay, not depending on each country. Okay, so but this is not only from a legal side. this is something related with the business part, no? And there is a new label that says Made in Europe, that's the European Union, uh, that involves regulation, certification. That is what we are going to explain today. Well, as I mentioned before, we depend a lot of solutions from other regions. This is the case of clouds, Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, IBM Clouds, OCI from Oracle, Google Cloud. Well, there are lots of public clouds, so that there are all of them are from America, at least the most popular ones. Later, we will explore some options that we have here in Europe. In the case of chipsets, NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, Qualcomm, Intel from America, uh, TSMC from Taiwan, but also with a relevant presence in Arizona in the US. Well, here we have also options like the case of ASML in the Netherlands, but it's like an exception here, no? Especially in our business domain related with voice communications, voice interconnection and security. And one of the key elements are the session border controllers. Oracle or Ribbon are from the US. The case of audio codes is from Israel. For sure, we have companies like Ericsson or Nokia that are based in Europe, but with some dependencies on R&D in Asia and investors in the US. Uh, but in terms of the session border controllers, they are focused on the telco side, not in the enterprise side. So we lack of a good option for the enterprise market in Europe. And if I have the opportunity, I will explain this later. In the case of other vendors like Huawei or ZTE that are from China, they were facing some limitations in terms of the regulation here in Europe. So there are a lot of noise related with digital sovereignty in Europe, particularly in France. We have received lots of news here, at least in Spain, about new regulation in France, in two different ways. Okay, first they are skipping or removing Microsoft products in some of their public sector. Okay, so they were trying to skip the dependency they have from Microsoft. But in the other side, we have other news related with investments of Microsoft or Amazon in AI solutions and other with the purpose to invest money in new data centers with new capacities in France with the support of the government. So we are receiving some news that sometimes are contradictory. That's for in one side they are trying to escape this dependency, but in the other side there are a lot of money from the US and they, they are very open to receive these investments from these companies. Defined by the European Commission, we have something like the sovereignty score that basically, depending on 8 different areas from strategy and legal to how you implement in a technical way your solution. And in 5 different levels, you can check if how sovereign is your solution. Okay, and this is an interesting approach. For the moment, it's not completely defined. It's like a framework, but if you are open to evaluate your own solution, you can get some feedback about how European and independent is your solution to third parties. Here, basically, we are using this tool to evaluate our own solutions and to provide to our customers some feedback about if they are using the solutions from Quobis, you can escape or avoid any type of geopolitical risk. And basically, what we are trying, depending on your solution, but in case of ours, that is based on SIP and WebRTC for voice and video interconnection, we can identify for these 8 areas, we can identify some questions to test ourselves and to provide a value from 0 to 4 for this sovereignty level. That's 0, that means that you don't have anything by your own. 1, that you have well documented everything. 2, in case you can configure and you are more or less autonomous to third parties for this. 3, that you are a third party can audit your solution and consider that this is under your control. And 4, if you have a full control of your solution because it's completely independent, so you have control of your software, and you have no dependencies to third parties. Just to give you an example, and this is something that is being defined in a high level by the European Commission, but we can adapt to our reality in order to provide a score to our own solution. Okay. So moving to the next slide, well, something similar to what I explained before about France. What happens from the European Union? No, in the right side of the screen, we can see that the European Union is promoting. Sorry, the left side, that is promoting providers, okay, to be completely autonomous, to have all the capacities in Europe to be independent. And in this example, they have choose 4 different companies with other partners. This is the case of Stackit, Scaleway, S3NS, and OVH Cloud. And but in the other side, as you can see in the right part of this screen, with one of these, they have detected that at the end they were relying on Google Cloud for their solution, so it's not completely independent. So, well, at least what we see here is that the European Commission is trying to promote this type of solutions. Okay. One of the problems that we are facing now is with the US Cloud Act that allows the government of America to have access to all the data being stored by all of these American cloud providers, even for those which data centers are based in the European Union, represents a threat for the traditional legal framework that we have here. No? This is the case of GDPR for data protection, or a specific regulation or vertical regulation that we have for banks, banking, or financial sector, or health system. So what's going on in terms of defense? No, as you probably know, well, now we are facing some wars or geopolitical threats, and we need some new regulation in order to grant the security of the network service, as this is also a relevant asset in terms of our proper national defense. No? In the next slide, I'm going to speak about these 2 new laws, okay, the Digital Network Acts and the Civil Relationship Act. But basically, just to make a short introduction about this last one, says that any product with digital features, whatever, okay, that is being sold in the European Union must follow some minimum cybersecurity standards. And in case of the Digital Network Act, is not focused on product as the previous one. This is focused on the service by itself. Okay, and the idea is that ensure that all the physical networks, including the telecom networks like 5G, fiber, or whatever, are resilient and non-dependent of high risks foreign vendors. Okay. This is the case of Huawei and ZTE, that you probably know that they have some limitations, but other companies, especially those from America, might suffer in the near future. Okay. Well, the European Union in the past was only regulating, okay, but now they are promoting. So they are playing the role of a constructor. This is a word that they are using now, okay? They are constructing solutions, okay? In the right part, you can see a figure that is Eurostack directory. That's something that has been promoted that came by the European Commission, and the idea to have a directory of European companies that are ready to provide a solution, okay, from public cloud service, database, and unified communication tools, like is the case of Quobis. Okay. The idea is to promote European companies and public authorities to buy locally, okay, to buy European technology. And there is another point that is interesting and is linked to the subject of this webinar, that the idea is when to promote open source, okay, because with public money, invest in public code, okay, that we will try to explain later. So here you can see there are lots of regulation when all of the that are based in Europe. You know that the European Union loves to create new laws, and this is the case of all you can see in this in this in this list. Okay, I've explained before about the digital network and the CRA, and just to introduce, well, a little bit about the new ones that are mentioned here. In the case of DORA, is focused in the financial vertical, banks, and so on. And in the case of NIST is for those companies that in a middle or large size. So you need to have more than 50 employees, if I'm not wrong. And the idea of all of these laws is try to promote some regulation to penalize the concentration of risk for those processes that are part of your core business in a specific single provider, especially if this is from out of the European Union. Okay. So moving to the, well, if I have some time by the end of this webinar, I will try to explain a little bit about all of the rest of the laws that are mentioned here in the previous slide. In this one, we introduce something that is the relevant change that we are facing this year. And the idea is that we are moving in Europe from soft laws to hard laws. Okay. In the past, we only have some recommendations. Okay. Well, if you want to provide a service, you need to notify your local regulator, and that's all. But now we have some details, no? And the idea is you need to follow or to escape some vendors or to escape some service because they are not going to follow the regulation that you have. And another point that is interesting is mandatory for all the countries. In the past, were only recommendations, so the different countries just decided if this was interesting for them or not. But now this is completely mandatory. So basically, we have now a new framework that is called the European Cybersecurity Certification Framework in order to get what you can see in the right side of the screen, a level that says that you're certified by the European Union in order to sell your solution, okay? Or in case of products, we have the NISA, the European Union Cybersecurity Certification, in order to validate this type of service. Okay. In the case of the CE market, is mandatory for selling products and software in the European Union. under the Cyber Resilience Act that I explained before. Okay, so this framework is the preferred tool, okay, in order to demonstrate that your product or service is ready and follows all the European regulation. Okay. The Cyber Resilience Act, as I mentioned before, draws like a line of service in order to split what you have on top and below this figure. Okay, so it separates the cloud service, managed security service, and so that are still being managed by the ENISA certification and are not ready to get the CE mark. Okay. So here well, the next future we will have all the certification companies, auditors, and so trying to promote how to get all these seals. Okay. So moving to the next slide, I introduced before a little bit about the NIS2 that was mandatory for medium and large size companies, and basically this regulation allows entities, okay, to use a cybersecurity certification scheme like the one that I explained before, just to demonstrate the compliance with the law. So now, if a product has a CE mark or a relevant certificate valid for the European Union, okay, this should be enough. So you don't need to get your local certification, like the case of the ENS, that is Esquema Nacional de Seguridad in Spain. For those of you that are from Spain, you know that is pretty popular, no? Or SecNam Cloud in the case of France. If you get these approvals from the European Union, it should be enough in order to operate in all the European Union. Okay. This slide we have a new example of controversy. Okay, while Oracle is investing a lot in Spain in order to comply with the European Union regulations, in the case of Spain, you can see the left part that is a public authority here in Spain that is publishing this press release about Oracle. In the case of France, they are trying to prevent any type of foreign interference and to promote their own data solutions. Okay, so if Oracle cannot prove their full independence to the US authorities, and remember the Cloud Act that I explained before, France can restrict it, Oracle, for some sensitive sectors. Okay. So in this next slide, what we are going to explore are the different roles that are defined by the Cyber Resilience Act, okay, in order to define which are the economic operators and check which are the different limitations, okay, that that we will have, okay. Please consider when with all this information that despite Europe was belligerent against China, they were less aggressive towards the US, but this is something that might change in the near future. Okay, so exploring these 5 different roles. The first one is open source stewards. Just to give you an example, could be the Linux Foundation. Here, these type of entities are exempt of any type of profit-related fines, as they are considered to provide non-monetized products or solutions. Okay, and they are just for them it's mandatory just to document their cybersecurity policy. Okay, and this should be all in terms of regulation for them. So they can skip all the regulation that are that is mandatory for manufacturers. No, that is the case that we are going to explore now. For sure, these are the type of companies. This is the case of Oracle, for instance. These are the type of companies that are most affected by the regulations. All the companies that create hardware or any software solution are forced to provide some feedback about their policies to develop the solutions with security by design policies, to document everything, to pass all the certifications, frameworks that I have explained before, and something like, well, similar to what we have in the US now, to provide some warranty about that the security threats in all of the life cycle of the product will be covered. Okay. In the case of the integrators, okay, well, here we have two different type of integrators, and I explained before that Quobis plays the role for integrator because we are working with open source solutions and commercial solutions. In the case of open source, for instance, we are working with Kamailio, a pretty popular SIP proxy, and basically here, as we are integrating uh, Kamailio to create a solution for a customer, we are playing the role of a manufacturer from this legal perspective. Okay, so we are the ones that must provide all the documentation, certification, to provide support in order to maintain the solution secure. Okay. In the case of commercial solutions, and we are reselling SDCs from Oracle, for instance, Oracle is the one that is, well, as I mentioned before, that should pass all these process in order to be ready to sell in the European Union. But it's going to depend on the value that we provide on top. If we are just reselling this, we can skip any regulation because it's the vendor the one that should get the European levels. Okay, but in case we are providing any type of value on top, and imagine that we are creating a managed service with a web portal just to configure this. In this case, we are becoming a manufacturer by default. So we are also, again, we are forced to play the role of want to pass all the certification, documentation, and support needed for this. Okay. What happens from the point of view of a telco? Okay, because well, we are working with Vodafone, Telefonica, Orange, and others. If the telco is using open source for this, okay, well, for sure, it's like an integrator. So they are responsible for the product. So they are responsible for the security by default, design, documentation, certification, support, or whatever. But in any case, what happens with the NIS 2 framework for this? No, because well, in case of the product, it's what I explained before, but the telco is always creating a service. Also, it's similar to what I have explained before. If Quobis plays the role of I'm buying a third-party SDC, but I'm offering this as a managed service solution. Okay, in this case, it's similar from the point of view of the telco. No? And, this is critical for them because as they are a large company, they are forced to be compliant with these two frameworks. So they need to provide some resilience for all the solutions that they are building and to provide some type of primary responsibility in case anything happens. Okay. Another role is the importer. Okay, so we are buying from out of the European Union a solution, and we are playing the role of a distributor. Okay, that's is more or less typical, at least in Europe, to work with large distributors when you are buying technology from the US. In this case, the importer, the distributor, the one that is responsible in case the non-European Union manufacturer fails in any of the duties they have in the life cycle. Imagine, in the case you are relying on a distributor of Oracle SPCs, if Oracle is not responding in the US, well, it's going to be difficult if you have a local a company here, no? But is the distributor, the importer, the one who will be responsible for this? Okay, so this is an important change in the framework that we currently have. Okay. So basically, this well, importer and also the distributor is responsible for checking that the manufacturer is ready to sell in Europe, so that they have all the markings, certification, and they must report if anything happens. Okay. So this is an interesting opportunity for open source, okay, because well, with all the regulation that I was explaining before, if you depend of a single non-European provider as a telco, I mean, you are required to justify that you are assuming the risk and to enforce a mitigation plan for this. Okay. So the idea, from the point of view of the telco, that they should prioritize the European-based vendors and to explore open source solutions as a good alternative with the advantage that I explained before, at least for disaster recovery. So you can rely on an American company for your core solution, but you should have an European company or at least an open source solution as a disaster recovery, just if anything happens. Okay, so it's a good opportunity for open source now in Europe. Okay, it's also interesting, okay, to prevent single points of failure or to skip vendor locking. So one of the trends that we foresee is that telcos should be interested in separating the infrastructure to the software. And this is important because you know that all the public cloud vendors, they have lots of different software that can run in their clouds, and they providing a bundle solutions. But it's not so interesting now. Another point that might be interesting is to separate the authentication service to the service by itself, no? In order to be ready to escape any type of vendor locking. No? So we have detected some advantage to work with open source in the case of telcos in order to be compliant with the new regulation. One is to allow independent third-party reviewers to access the code and check that it's okay without requiring any type of vendor permission for this. That sometimes is hard. Okay. Also to prevent the exposure to foreigners that are creating backdoor mandates, like the case of cloud acts of the US. This open source is also allowing the telco to decouple components independently to escape proprietary APIs and for sure to avoid vendor locking. And also is promoting to buy locally. So they are helping European tech companies to get better deals and to promote the European Union economy. So these are some of the key advantages that we see. And finally, there are other advantages in terms of business continuity. One is that in case of any type of legal termination of a service, you can fork the code and you can continue using the code by yourself, okay? For sure, accessing the codes and working with open source solutions, especially those that have a relevant community, is helping to enable a long-term support of the solution. We have also the hybrid backup model that you can see this slide, that is just to have this open source solution as a disaster recovery. You can still rely on your commercial solution from the US or Asia, but you can use the open source in order to be compliant with the regulation just as a disaster recovery solution. And we have here just an example of a solution of our portfolio. We have a WebRTC and zip-based soft phone with different applications for mobile devices, web-based, and whatever. And we have one of the options that is running in the marketplace of Microsoft Teams. That might be strange because this is a sovereign client, or because it's from the European Union. We have complete control of it. But we are relying on a solution that is a UCAS solution from the US, and we understand that this is an interesting approach because if this proprietary cloud solution is being cut by any reason, in case if you are used to work with Teams phone, that there are alternatives to work locally, because sometimes something may happen, okay, with in terms of connectivity. If you are using our application in this marketplace of Microsoft Teams, this is completely independent to the network of Microsoft. No? So it remains functional in case of any type of outage or whatever happens with the network of Microsoft. Okay. And finally, that is the last slide that we have for today, and just to give you a summary, okay, about this explanation for this interesting opportunity for telcos. For them, relying on open source could be a good opportunity in order to provide auditors some evidence that they are trying to actively reduce the single vendor dependencies. Okay. It's a good way in order to have a disaster recovery tool, okay, that provides more reliability in terms of business continuity. And it's something that is important. I didn't explain before. If you rely in open source solutions, especially in the communication part, as I mentioned before, we typically work with SIP and WebRTC. Open solutions typically rely on open standards. So this will be easy in order to skip any type of dependency in the future, okay? Because you should have other solutions that are, you can change your solution, but by others that are also based in open standards. So it's a additional way in order to skip any type of dependency or vendor logins. Okay, so that's all for today. I tried to answer some of the questions that you have share in real time, but I have here a very specific question about what's going to happen with Teams phone in Europe. It will be forbidden. I don't think that this will be the case. Well, as you probably know, in the case of this market with Teams phone, well, and others, because WebEx or Zoom phone, RingCentral, all of these are American companies relying on public clouds. They will probably continue to provide this service, and this makes sense, okay? But you will need to provide some evidence that you have a a second solution from Europe or based on open source, just in case you need to move all your employees or customers that are using this solution. Okay. I think that should be enough, at least for the moment. We don't foresee that will be any type of solution forbidden in Europe in the near future. No, but you will have some recommendation obligations. Okay, and one of these will be to have an alternative ready to use. Okay, so I think that this is the point that we will have. Okay. So I think that that's all for today. Thanks a lot for your attendance. As I mentioned before at the beginning, I have some questions about this. The slides will be available together with the recordings of this webinar. And as you are all registered, I think that you will receive an email tomorrow, okay, with all these recordings. Do not hesitate to submit any additional question that you will have. You will probably have your contact to get in contact with Quobis. In any case, you can send an email to iago.sot@quobis.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer all your questions that you will have. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, and stay tuned. And I hope you can enjoy future webinars.